Let me tell you something right now. You were born with greatness inside of you. Not average, not mediocre, not almost. Greatness. But most people will never realize it. Not because they're not gifted, but because they talk too much and believe too little. The world is obsessed with noise. Everywhere you look, someone's shouting their goals, broadcasting their next move, uploading their every step, begging for validation. But let me ask you something. When was the last time a tree made noise while growing? It doesn't. Yet over time, it becomes tall, strong, and unshakable. That's greatness. Quiet, consistent, rooted. The same applies to you. Greatness isn't loud. It's not desperate. It's not looking for likes. Greatness is built in silence. In those unseen moments when you're grinding, learning, healing, and transforming, that's where destiny is forged. The problem is, most people don't have the patience to stay silent. Silence scares them. It reminds them they're alone with themselves. But that's exactly where you need to be if you're going to grow. In the silence, you face your truth. You confront your weaknesses. As it helps, you strengthen your spirit. You learn to hear the whisper of God's guidance over the shout of the world's opinions. That whisper doesn't come through chaos. It comes through stillness. And until you're willing to embrace that stillness, you'll keep chasing artificial confidence from external noise. Too many of you are skipping the foundation. You want the stage without the preparation. You want the crown without the process. But a crown without character is just decoration. What makes you strong isn't what people see. It's what they don't. It's the hours you study when no one's clapping, as it helps us. It's the prayers you whisper when you're on the edge of quitting. It's the battles you win behind closed doors when doubt is screaming, but you keep showing up anyway. That's the silent work no one posts about. And that's what separates those who dream from those who build. If you're going to step into your calling, you need to fall in love with the silence. Silence is sacred. It's where the real work happens. That's where the blueprint is drawn. It's where God gives vision before provision. You're asking for the spotlight, but the spotlight will expose what the dark has not yet developed. Let the darkness do work. Let it stretch you. Let it teach you. Let it prepare you to handle the weight of what's coming. Because when the spotlight shows up, it won't create your character. It will reveal it. Don't misunderstand me. This isn't about hiding. It's about building. Hiding is fear-based. Building is faith-based. And you can't build what you don't believe in. So your silence must be paired with faith. Not just faith in results, but faith in the process. Faith that the work you're doing when no one's watching matters. It helps us. Faith that the investment you're making in yourself is sowing a harvest you haven't seen yet. Faith that even in silence, something powerful is taking place inside you that will eventually break through. You might feel overlooked right now. You might feel like no one sees your effort. You might wonder if your work is in vain. Let me tell you, it's not. You're not behind. You're being built. And buildings don't go up overnight. First, the foundation must be laid. That's the part no one applauds. But it's the most important part. Because if your foundation is weak, your success will collapse under pressure. But if your foundation is solid, you can weather any storm and still rise. This is the time to shut off the noise. To stop scrolling, stop comparing, stop performing. This is the time to go inward, to do the work, to dig deep. Not for applause, but for alignment. Not for validation, but for transformation. Because your life's calling won't be fulfilled through performance. It will be fulfilled through preparation. And preparation is always quiet. It's private. It's uncomfortable. but it is necessary. So when it feels like nothing is happening, as it helps us. Remember this, that's when the most is happening. The seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. It breaks, it dies, it roots, then it grows. And if you rush the process, you rob yourself of the strength you were meant to develop. The silence is not a punishment. It's a gift. It's a womb, not a grave. And everything you're building now in faith, in focus, and in silence will rise when the time is right, as it helps us. Most people are waiting for a crowd to believe in them before they move. They're waiting for someone to clap before they commit. But let me tell you the truth. No one will celebrate you consistently until you prove that you don't need to be celebrated to keep going. Applause is not the starting point of success, it's a byproduct of it. And if you need it to begin, you'll never last when it's gone. Your belief in yourself has to be bigger than the silence of the crowd. It has to be rooted in something deeper than feedback, deeper than affirmation, deeper than validation. There is a dangerous trap in waiting for confirmation because the people around you are not responsible for your calling. They didn't give it to you, and they don't have the authority to approve it. You've been given a vision, a purpose, and no one else was in the room when it was placed inside of you. So stop looking around nods and claps. The longer you wait for applause, the more you delay your assignment. The truth is, it helps us. Most people won't believe in you until you've already succeeded without them. And even then, some won't. That's why your belief must be built before the applause ever arrives. When belief precedes applause, you become dangerous to doubt. You become immune to criticism and independent of approval. You don't need to hear "good job" to keep grinding. You don't need external motivation to act with internal conviction. You know who you are. You know what you're capable of. And most importantly, you know why you're doing it. That's the kind of belief that produces momentum. And momentum doesn't come from compliments. It comes from clarity. You must become so clear on your purpose that applause feels optional, not essential. People talk a lot about self-confidence, but few understand that true confidence isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It's a calm, unshakable knowing. It's doing the work when no one sees it. It's showing up when no one shows up for you. It's pushing through when your results don't yet match your effort. That's the belief that builds empires. That's the belief that lays bricks every day in silence until the structure is so massive that the world can't ignore it anymore. And even then, the builder doesn't stop to clap, they just keep building. If you only move when you're seen, you'll never move far. There'll be seasons where no one sees you, no one understands you, no one claps, no one calls. And it's in those seasons that real belief is tested. That's where average people quit, when their effort isn't being echoed back to them with praise. But those who are called, those who are built for greatness, don't need echoes. They speak their future out loud, walk toward it in silence, and work on it in faith. Belief must be developed in obscurity. It must be shaped in solitude. When the room is empty and the results are invisible, that's when belief is formed. And when you can walk boldly through that kind of darkness, then no spotlight can blind you and no silence can break you. You become rooted in purpose instead of approval, and purpose is permanent. Applause is not. Applause fades. Purpose fuels. When applause disappears, purpose still pushes you forward. That's why the belief has to come first. You've got to be willing to look crazy, to move before people understand, to invest before it makes sense, to speak things into existence before they're visible. That's the kind of belief that moves mountains, That's the kind of belief that produces fruit. And most people will only clap for fruit. They won't stick around for the planting, watering, or waiting. You've got to be okay with that, because you're not building for applause. You're building for impact. And impact starts with belief, real belief. The kind that stands alone if it must. So if no one claps, you clap for yourself. If no one cheers, you move anyway. If no one affirms, you remind yourself of who you are. Because applause is not your source. It's a byproduct. And when you finally arrive, when your vision becomes reality, the very same people who doubted you will ask you how you did it. And you'll know the answer. You believed before they ever noticed. There's a generation of people obsessed with announcing everything: goals, dreams, mindsets, changes. Every thought becomes a post. Every intention becomes a broadcast. But here's the realigning: action always outweighs announcement. No one has ever achieved greatness by declaring their plans alone. The work is what counts. The grind, the sweat, the unseen consistency. That's what changes your life. You can talk all day long, but if you're not moving, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're shrinking. Announcing is easy. It gives a quick dopamine hit. It makes you feel like you've already done something by saying it out loud. But saying you're going to do something and doing it are not the same, as it helps us. Saying you're going to win and training like a winner are two different worlds. You don't get results by making noise. You get results by making moves. The people who are really building something don't need to talk about it every step of the way, because they know that real success doesn't beg for attention. It commands it through results. You don't need to post every plan. You don't need to tell every friend. You don't need to announce every step, because real power is silent. It's disciplined. It's focused. It's flocked in. You're not in this to entertain people with your potential. You're in this to produce. And producers don't spend their time explaining. They're too busy executing. They're not looking for approval. They're building something undeniable. When the results show up, they speak louder than 1,000 announcements ever could. Most people lose momentum because they get high off the attention of talking. They mistake excitement for execution. But excitement fades. And when it fades, all you're left with is the work, or the lack of it. If you're not building in the dark, you won't shine in the light. That's why you've got to stop talking and start working. Every second you spend announcing something you haven't done yet is a second you're not using to get it done. And time is too precious to waste proving something with words that only actions can confirm. You've got to decide what you really want. Do you want to look like you're winning, or do you want to actually win? Because those are two different paths. One is based on image. The other is built on substance. Image fades. Substance lasts. You don't need to convince the world you're doing something big. Let the work speak. Let the outcomes shout. Let the results prove what you believed in all along. Because when you're truly about your business, people can feel it. Even if you never say a word, people may underestimate you because you're quiet. Let them. They may assume you're not moving because you're not talking. Let them, because when you act without announcing, you develop a secret weapon. Surprise. While they're watching someone else's noise, you're making real progress. And by the time they notice you, it's too late. You've already leveled up. That's the advantage of silent work. It's not about hiding. It's about focusing. It's about building something so strong that it no longer needs introduction. You don't have to prove your ambition to anyone. You don't owe the world an explanation for your hustle. You owe yourself results. You owe your future discipline. You owe your destiny consistency. That doesn't come from talking. It comes from doing. It comes from waking up and putting in the work. Even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one sees it. That's where transformation happens. Not in the declaration, but in the dedication. Not in the hype, but in the habit. There's no power in promises you don't keep, as it helps us. There's no strength in goals you never pursue. Words without action are empty. They sound strong, but produce nothing. So hold your tongue and move your feet. Get so busy working that people stop asking what you're doing and start asking how you did it. Because in the end, it's not what you say that builds your future. It's what you do when nobody's watching. Most people are trying to borrow confidence from the outside world. They're hoping that someone will see their potential and validate it before they act. But identity doesn't work like that. Identity is not assigned by the world. It's revealed by the work you do when nobody's watching. It doesn't come from applause. It doesn't come from your past, your pain, or your performance. It comes from the truth inside of you, the truth you were born with, the truth that never changes even when your circumstances do. When you don't know who you are, you will spend your life trying to become who people want you to be. You will morph. You will shrink. You will overcompensate. You'll chase approval, applause, and attention, not realizing that every time you do, you're trading authenticity for acceptance, as it helps us. And the price is too high, because anything you gain while pretending really yours, it belongs to the version of you they wanted, not the one you truly are. That's why identity must be built from the inside out. The outside world will always have opinions. Some will praise you. Some will doubt you. But if you let those voices shape your worth, you'll live like a puppet instead of a leader. People are fickle. One day they love you, the next day they forget you. That's why your foundation can't be built on them. You have to wake up every day with a knowing, not a feeling, not a hope, a knowing of who you are. And that kind of knowing only comes when you stop looking out and start looking in. You were never meant to chase identity. You were meant to walk in it, to embody it, to stand on it with unshakable confidence, not because someone told you who you are, but because you've decided to believe what was already true. That decision has nothing to do with your background, your bank account, your resume, or your past failures. Not based on whether people clap or criticize. It's based on conviction, on clarity, on calling. And that calling can't be revoked by human opinion. There's a reason identity is tested in silence. Because in the quiet, all the noise fades. The followers don't matter. The opinions don't echo. You're left with one voice, yours. And if that voice isn't rooted in truth, you'll crumble the moment pressure comes. But when it is rooted in truth, pressure doesn't break you. It proves you. You begin to understand that external voices may influence your environment, but only your internal voice can define your direction. You cannot live free when your value is on lease. Every time you hand over your identity to someone else's opinion, you become a slave to their expectation. That's why real freedom is internal. It comes when you say, I know who I am, even when no one agrees. It comes when your actions are based on purpose, not popularity. It comes when you stop performing for the world and start showing up for yourself, not with arrogance, but with certainty, not with noise, but with presence. The most powerful people in the world are not the loudest. They're the most aligned. They're the ones who move with quiet authority because their identity isn't on trial. It's been settled. That kind of identity doesn't need to flex. It doesn't need to convince. It doesn't need to respond to every challenge or prove anything to anyone. It just is. And because it's internal, it's untouchable. No failure can erase it. No setback can shrink it. No comment can cancel it. You don't find identity in your followers, your feed, or your achievements. You don't find it in compliments or criticism. You find it in the moments when you choose purpose over pressure, when you act in alignment with your values, when you build in silence because your value isn't up for debate. Identity isn't given. It's claimed. It's a decision, a commitment to never outsource your worth again, because who you are is not up for negotiation. Everyone wants to elevate, but no one wants to separate. They want growth without loss, progress without pruning, expansion without exit. But the truth is this: you cannot rise while clinging to what's holding you down. Elevation requires separation as it helps us. You can't take old habits into a new level. You can't drag dead weight into your destiny. The higher you go, the less you can carry. The air gets thinner, and so must your circle, your distractions, your excuses. If you're serious about rising, you've got to release. Separation isn't rejection, it's refinement. It's the process of making room for what aligns with your future by letting go of what only fits your past. Some people, places, and patterns were never designed to follow you to the next level. They were seasonal, situational, or survival-based. And now you're being called into something greater. But here's the catch: you can't step into greater if you're still entertaining what you've outgrown, as it helps us. Growth demands that you detach from anything that dilutes your purpose. It's hard because separation often feels like loss. It feels like leaving comfort behind. It feels like being misunderstood. It feels like standing alone. But that's the cost of elevation, as it helps us. You don't grow when you stay where it's easy. You grow when you walk away from what's familiar to step into what's necessary, as it helps us. I come from those don't build champions. Echo chambers don't stretch leaders. Safe decisions don't produce legacy. If you're going to rise, you've got to be willing to walk away from the noise, even if it means walking alone for a while. You weren't called to fit in. You were called to break through. And breaking through means you will offend some people. You'll confuse some friends. You'll disappoint some expectations. That's okay, because your loyalty is not to their comfort. It's to your calling. Don't shrink yourself to keep others secure. Don't water down your vision to keep old relationships afloat. Every time you delay your separation, you delay your elevation, and there are some doors that will not open until you close others first. Separation isn't just about people. It's about mindset. You've got to separate from small thinking, from fear-driven choices, from the belief that your past defines your potential. You've got to stop revisiting old versions of yourself just to make others comfortable. That version of you wasn't built for where you're going. And if you keep entertaining it, you'll sabotage what's coming next. Elevation starts in the mind. And until you leave behind the thoughts that limit you, you'll stay grounded, no matter how big your dreams are. Every eagle has to fly alone at some point, not because it hates other birds, but because the heights it's designed to reach can't be accessed in flocks. The turbulence at higher altitudes is different. The pressure is different. The standards are different. That's why not everyone can come with you. And that's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's understanding that your mission requires focus, and focus requires boundaries. You can't hear your calling clearly if you're surrounded by noise that contradicts it. The world celebrates connection, but often ignores the power of disconnection. You have to unplug from what's draining you, what's distracting you, what's deceiving you. Some connections feel good but keep you stagnant. Some opportunities look shiny but slow your progress. Not everything that's accessible is aligned, as it helps us. And if you're always available to everything, you'll never be committed to anything. Separation allows you to regain your attention, your energy, your clarity. And when you do, momentum follows. You're not leaving behind people or habits because you're better than them. You're leaving them because you're becoming better than who you were. There's a difference. Elevation is about responsibility. When you've been called to more, you can't live like you're still in less. You have to release the version of you that settled, that delayed, that tolerated too much, that ignored the tug in your spirit. Because that version of you isn't built for the altitude you're about to rise into. And if you don't separate from it, you'll sabotage the very future you prayed for. There's a difference between making noise and making moves. Noise is cheap. Noise is fast. Noise fades. But moves create momentum. Moves produce results. And in a world obsessed with attention, the most powerful statement you can make is silent progress. Let people underestimate you. Let them wonder what you're doing. Let them assume you've slowed down. Then let your results confront their assumptions. Results speak a language louder than hype and clearer than explanation. You don't need to broadcast every step. You don't need to justify your process. You don't need to convince the world that you're grinding. When the work is real, the proof will appear. It shows up in your growth. It shows up in your discipline. It shows up in the fruit, not just the effort. You're not in this to impress people who aren't invested in your outcome. You're in this to build something so strong, it can't be ignored even by those who never supported it. There's strength in silence. There's power in restraint. Not everything needs a reply. Not every season needs a spotlight. Some of the most important shifts happen when no one's clapping, when no one's asking, when no one's watching. That's where your foundation is formed. The deeper the root, the stronger the rise. That's why you don't chase attention. You chase execution. Let the people who talk keep talking. Let the people who doubt keep doubting. You stay building. You stay focused. People love to talk about potential. But potential without results is a lie you keep telling yourself. Stop measuring yourself by what you could do and start holding yourself accountable for what you actually produce. Talk doesn't change lives. Results do. Discipline does. Integrity does. No one remembers what you said you were going to do. They remember what you actually did. And if you stay consistent long enough, your results will start opening doors your words never could. You don't need a microphone to validate your mission. You need movement. You need mastery. You need maturity. Loud people usually lack results. They substitute volume for vision. But real builders don't have time to shout. They're too busy creating. Their results do the talking. And when the results show up, they're undeniable. Results don't beg to be believed. They don't argue with opinions. They just exist. And they shut down all debates in a single moment of clarity. There's a kind of power you unlock when you become obsessed with outcomes, not optics. It means you can walk into rooms without trying to be noticed. Because you know your work is already echoing in places your name hasn't even been mentioned yet. That's the value of being rooted. You don't need to promote yourself when your results are doing the outreach. You don't need to chase credit when your consistency makes you credible. The evidence becomes your energy. Discipline is louder than declarations. Execution is louder than a go. And the people who truly win in life are the ones who are willing to go unnoticed while they build. They're not attached to the timeline. They're not addicted to attention. They just keep showing up, keep putting in the reps, keep moving in alignment with their mission. And eventually, the noise they avoided becomes the noise they create, but not with words, with impact, with presence, with undeniable fruit. Let others keep making announcements. Let others keep performing online. You protect your energy, protect your strategy, protect your future. Because when the time is right and the fruit appears, it won't matter who doubted. It won't matter who ignored you. It won't matter who overlooked you. The only thing that will matter is that you were faithful in the dark long enough for your light to break through. And when it does, no one will be able to silence it.